Well, friends, spring is finally here, so we're going to get the rig out of storage. We're going to talk about a few things as far as dewinterizing goes and, what our process is to get ready for the camping season. We're going to be leaving in just a few short days for our first trip of the year. We've only got a little bit of time here to get everything flushed out of the rig. We got to also do some modifications to the outdoor kitchen because we got a new propane stove, so let's get started. So friends, the first thing that I always do before I even get the rig out of storage is take a walk out on the roof. And luckily for me, I have a staircase back here that conveniently leads me right over to the camper. And, I always take my shoes off before I walk out here. And what you're looking to do is inspect all the seals, which is Dicor lap sealant, and make sure that nothing's cracked. Now, we're lucky that we get to keep this rig inside, and really it's only outside when we're on our trips, and sometimes in between if we're only home for a little while, but that really helps keep the sun off of it, and the sun and the UV rays and all that stuff is what screws with your sealant. Friends, these are the seals that we're looking at, and on our rig here, we've got no cracks that I can find, but you just want to check over all this stuff as best you can. This is your TV antenna, is a good place to look around that. And then back in the back there, you have a sewer vent and the skylight for your bathroom. And I don't see any cracks there. I already looked at that. And there's another vent back by my shoes there. And that's our fan cover, which we got that last spring so that we could leave our vent in the bathroom cracked on cold trips when we have the heat running, because we were getting condensation all throughout the inside of the rig. So we added that Camco vent cover, which has really helped out a lot. And then, of course, you've got a seal running across the back here. And you can see this looks like it was added after the fact, probably at the dealership when they went over it, because this sealant here and this stuff here does not match factory sealant. But I haven't had to do anything with this roof yet since we've owned it, and we've been through 2 basically full seasons. I attribute that to keeping it inside. They say you're supposed to get up on here every 90 days and check all these seals, and they only warranty this stuff when you buy the brand new rig for 90 days. So luckily for me, it's easy for me to get up here and look at this. I've inspected it pretty thoroughly and not found any cracks. But like I said, UV light is what's going to screw with all this stuff. So if you're keeping it outside or you're not covering it in the winter or those types of things, that's when you're going to experience problems. Before we pull this out of the garage, I want to check the tire pressure and get these axles greased. We're definitely going to be getting new tires here shortly. I don't know if we're going to get them by Thursday for our first trip, but these Castle rocks at this point are pretty much living on a prayer. The one we have on the back is the spare, is in the worst shape of them all. At the very least, it looks like we've got one more trip left of these. And of course, you should be checking your air pressure pretty regularly, no matter what tires you have. And we have the TPMS system, which is integrated with the truck. We did a video on that if you want to go check that out. But, I'm going to check these right now. We run the tires on the trailer at the maximum cold PSI. So that means right now when I check them, they should be at 65 PSI. They're of course not, so it looks like they're going to need some air. You always want to run them at maximum cold PSI. So that doesn't mean set them at 60, and so when they warm up they're going to be at 65. That means they should be at 65 PSI before you drive or tow your trailer anywhere. So friends, we have a 12 volt compressor that we use when we're out on the road. I got it at Harbor Freight, and That seems to be the cheapest model, and it looks very similar to the Viairs that you would otherwise pay like $300 or $400 for. It's probably not as good as the Viair, but they're both made in China, so you know, if I'm buying Chinese junk, at least I don't have to pay $300 for it. But since we're here at the house, though, this air compressor is going to air these up much faster. You know, no matter what 12-volt model you have, it's not going to be overly quick. So friends, these easy loop bearings are one of those things that people on the internet just go crazy about. And it's a touchy subject for some people. But for me, you know, I have a lot of things going on in life. So for me to tear apart these axles every year to grease them is really just something that's not feasible. So, you know, I've not had any problems with my trailer brakes and stuff not working. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that say, well, you won't know if you're blowing grease out the back until you tear it apart. And so when we do tear these apart, I'm going to show you whether there's grease or not in the back of the, coming out the back. The back seal is what allegedly gets blown out by doing this. But from what I've gathered, you know, if you're spinning your wheel as you're pumping this stuff in, and you know, I've watched videos where they just keep pumping until that stuff comes out this side. And, you know, from what I understand, that's the proper way to do it. But at the same time, then you get other people that say if you just keep doing that, that it's going to blow out the back seal. So, you know, I don't really know who to trust or anything as it relates to that. But we've not had a bearing go out, and we've not really had any problems by just sticking 3 or 4 squirts in there every spring. You know, so that's just where we're at with the subject. It's definitely getting some fresh grease in there. But the other thing too is, from what I've watched as it relates to the subject, if you just keep pumping until the grease comes out, you're going to go through tubes and tubes and tubes of this grease, and that doesn't seem like a very cost effective way to do it. If I was going to go through that much grease, I just rip them apart, because you're going to use way less. But like I said, that is coming. That is something that we are going to do. I don't know if it's going to be this year or next year, probably next spring, you know, knowing the way that things are right now for us. But if we have a bearing go out too, you know, we'll show you that. And so then you'll know that I am wrong in my strategy here. So one last thing, friends, that I forgot to mention is that you're supposed to check your torque of your wheel lugs. It's like every 100 miles or so. It looks like every 200 miles you're supposed to torque your lug nuts. And I definitely do this before every trip. If we're on a longer trip, I will do it in between stops. Generally, we don't go 200 miles in one trip. This upcoming trip, I think it's like 80-90 miles each way, so you're looking at 180. And you know, so it works out well for us just to check them before we leave. And then a helpful hint I just thought of while I was doing it is you always want to store your torque wrench with it back unwound all the way to 0. Otherwise, the calibration will get off. So always put it right back to 0 for storage. So in the wintertime, with the travel trailer, and I also do this with my car and my tractor, is to take the battery out and leave it someplace where it's heated, because the cold will cause it to discharge, is something I've been told. But I'm really not the authority on batteries. Batteries isn't something I know much about. This one for the travel trailer, it's got an indicator on it, and it says if it's green, it's good. So that's what I'm going to go with. We are planning on some upgrades as it relates to battery power, though, and solar and stuff. It's got to happen at least by the fall, because we're going to need more power for boondocking come fall. So friends, I think I've told you in the past, these Ram mirrors actually really impress me. I know a ton of people complain about them, but you know, in my mind, even when they're not in what they call moose mode or tow haul or flipped up or whatever you want to call it, for your little stuff like just moving this around a little bit, it's not even really necessary in my mind to flip them up. And then of course you've got all these camera views, which really do help as well. That ought to do her. And I always put the parking brake on then, so that way it doesn't move. Bang on. One of the main things I want to talk to you guys about as far as this spring is concerned and getting ready to go is, we told you when we did our RV tour that we've been having some real issues with this convection stove. And so I've got a propane stove that's effectively going to replace this. Right here, this is the cast iron stove. I got this as a Christmas present. I'm pretty excited for it. It's 2-burner propane. And I think it's going to work way better, as you can see back there, hopefully. We do like to cook on cast iron when we're camping, and having 2 burners, that could allow for us to be cooking pancakes with 1 burner and, you know, boiling water for tea or something with the other, or you can be cooking bacon in a skillet and pancakes on a griddle or whatever. In the past, we have a griddle combo. It's an old Charbroil, maybe? I don't know. I'll show it to you.
Yeah, probably.
We do have that, and we still intend to use that, but at the same time, it would be nice to have more options as it relates to cooking. And like I said, the electric stove is supposed to work with cast iron. It's supposed to work with the skillet that came with it, but it doesn't. So, and also, you know, as it relates to boondocking, you cannot use the electric stove unless you have power hookups. So, you know, that's never been a problem for us yet, but it might be going forward. So, what I'm trying to brainstorm here currently is how to reorganize this space to maximize storage, and also, you know, be able to use either this counter for the propane stove, or get rid of the electric stove and somehow finagle a new countertop here that it may fit on, or, you know, possibly maybe not using this for the propane stove at all, but getting rid of this, lowering all this down so that it's a little bit more storage space in here. I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing yet, but we're going to show you as we figure it out here together. So friends, another thing you want to try to do is, well, obviously in the spring, you'll have to put your anode rod back in your water heater, but this one, I don't know if you guys can see it here, but it's pretty well shot. We're going to have to order a new one, but this ought to get us through this weekend, so we'll put her back in like this. And, you know, you probably should replace it every other year or so if you're camping about as much as we are. If you camp less, then obviously you don't need it to be replaced as often. Friends, another thing that we're doing in order to get ready for this season is sanitizing the water tanks. That's also to some degree going to do the lines in the RV as well, as long as we run them through the cold water faucets of everything. So in this cup here, we've got 3/4 of a cup of bleach. They want you to have a full cup for a 50-gallon tank. It seems to be what I've found anyway. So 3/4 ought to work for us because we have about 30-gallon capacity in the tank. So hopefully I can somehow get this in there. Okay, so definitely couldn't get the cup in there while filming, but you get the point. 3/4 of a cup bleach to 30-gallon tank is what we're going with. Now what we're going to do is fill the tank up with water, which is what we're doing right now. And then we'll run it through the cold water faucet on the sink in the sink in the bathroom, and that should get us to where we need to be. So as you can see, we've successfully removed the wannabe outdoor kitchen, and you can see how much space that opens up. And we just got to figure out a way to make things make sense over here. Over where the fridge is, there's space behind the fridge that I feel like, you know, could be utilized better or accessed better. And so really kind of what I'm thinking here is this piece of wood that really is, to be honest with you, I'm not even sure how it is adhered to the floor, but I'm thinking we remove that piece of wood. And if I do remember correctly, you needed that for the outdoor kitchen to sit up high enough, originally, the one that was there, for this stuff to all slide out. Well, now we're going to make the height of that custom, so we can make it whatever height we want. And we don't need the clearance anymore. So the goal is get rid of this, but if we push the fridge over there, in this corner over here, and we might have to move the cast iron over. If we put the fridge over there and have it so that the way the door is going to be completely contained in this area, in this space, we don't have to worry about the clearance of the door. And the outdoor kitchen unit we're going to put over here, but it'll be lower, and then we'll be able to access over there easily, hopefully. So friends, this here is the space that I'm referring to. I'd like to be able to access this. And if you'll remember from the tour video, I said there was a wall here. And so this space, according to Forest River, is totally unnecessary to access. But the fridge, the way I had it sitting here, you could. We keep our kerosene here and tiki torch fuel, but got lots of space back there. And so we're gonna make this make sense here. I think we could keep our Dutch oven back there, and of course a lot of this space is right over top the axles, so it's perfect storage space because you can put it pretty much in our camper anyway. We've got like 3,000 pounds of payload. Put as much weight over those axles as you want. So, friends, if you've made it this far in the video, I just want to let you know I do appreciate you watching. I'm excited to share these things with you. If you want to see the complete outcome of how this new outdoor kitchen organization turns out, I would urge you to watch next week's episode, where we're going to Cooper's Rock State Park in West Virginia. We've got a lot of hikes and cool stuff planned, but also, you know, it's our first trip of the year, so, you know, there could be some kinks that we've got to work out of our system. And then, of course, you'll get to see how this all ends up. So, that'll be next week. And subscribe if you haven't already. That way you get notified whenever we post that video. And we don't always post things on a regular schedule. Generally it's every other Thursday, but sometimes we do 2 weeks in a row, just like this. And so it'd be a good idea to hit the bell icon. That way you'll never miss an episode. So this is where we're at, and we'll see you next week.